Ladies and gentlemen, the big wrestlers in the WWE and WCW, AEW, Freudian slip, and internationally owe a lot to this wrestler. Giant Baba and a few others basically dominated our era, but this guy is sort of a lost hero of Canadian wrestling. Now, everyone knows the midget wrestler Sky Lolo, but guess where he got his name from? He was inspired by this guy, probably the tallest and best big man ever to come from Toronto, Sky High Lee. Now, Robert E. Leedy, born 9th of February 21, was a wrestler, a boxer, and an actor. Known by his ring name Sky High Lee, also spelled Sky High Lee with a Y, Sky High Lee as in high, and Sky High Lee. Known for his great height and strength, he was described as the tallest pro wrestler of his era and as among the roughest in the business. Now, again, born in Toronto, he began wrestling at the age of 23. During the late 40s, he wrestled for various promotions in Canada and the States, and against Kyle Lowe, who debuted in the late 40s, adopted his nickname in reference to Lee. Now, by 1950, he was appearing with the Calgary-based big-time wrestling promotion. On February 26, 51, he defeated Al Mills for the promotion's NWA Canadian Heavyweight title. Mills regained the title from Lee the following month. Then he won the championship of Mills a second time on 29th January 52, once again losing the title to Mills in a rematch the following month. On April 2nd, 55, Lee and Earl McCready defeated Fritz von Erich and Lou Schulberg for the Alberta Tag Team title. They lost the title back to von Erich and Schulberg later that month. On May 20th, 55, Lee defeated von Erich and Schulberg for the title a second time, this time with Don Lee as his partner. Lee continued to wrestle for big time until at least 56. Now, in 57, he was in Australia for 30 matches, including 2 bouts against NWA World Heavyweight Champion Lou Thesz, followed by a bout in New Zealand. In late 57, he began wrestling for the Honolulu-based promotion 50th State Big Time Wrestling. Ironically, Hawaii wasn't a state in 57. He continued to wrestle for promotion until early 59. During his stint in Hawaii, Lee lived in Waikiki and Honolulu. Now, in late 58, he toured Japan with the Japan Pro Wrestling Alliance, participating in international competitions on the Fall Series as one half of a tag team with the equally large and talented Don Leo Jonathan. While in East Asia, Lee visited Formosa during the Second Taiwan Strait Crisis, reportedly being introduced to Chiang Kai-shek. In the early 1960s, he toured South Africa. In 61, Jeremy Taylor recorded a satirical song entitled Og Please Daddy, Oh Please Daddy, in which reference is made to a scheduled bout between Lee and a South American wrestler, Willie Benberg. After finishing his tour, he flew to the UK in 62 to exchange his pay, which he had been giving in sterling. He ultimately settled in the UK, working for joint promotions and other companies. Now, during his time in the UK, he faced Tiger Joe Robinson in a bout that promoter Ethel Oakley described as one of the finest fights ever seen in London. Now, Leedy's last recorded wrestling bouts were in mid-68 when he toured Japan with International Wrestling Enterprise as part of its big summer series. Now, early in his career, he wrestled as a face and was billed from his hometown of Toronto. He used various ring names before settling on Sky High Lee, and later in his career, he wrestled as a heel and was billed as being a cowboy from El Paso, or less commonly Houston, Texas. He was his character described as a country bumpkin version of Jaws, and a roughneck, and supposedly being son of a Texas Ranger, High Lee. Lee was described by Paul Barrett as one of the most hated men in wrestling, on a par with fellow Canadian Roddy Piper. On at least one occasion, he was attacked by multiple audience members while leaving the ring. Sure, he wasn't in Belledue, New Brunswick. Little reminder there to our followers. He had a distinctive appearance, with Bob Leonard describing him as this great, big, raw-boned guy who had the look of a corpse that had been left hanging around for a couple of days, who had long, shaggy hair and was always unshaven. His hair was described as a lion Mike mane. One writer described his large head, long curly locks, sideburns, walrus mustache, and mutton chop whiskers. Lee was referred by one audience member as the first person I ever saw who was a lean 292 pounds. He was known to wear a Stetson. Now, Lee wrestled in a brawling style that emphasized his height and strength, with frequent choking and gouging. So, like Guntar and a lot of the what I call the European choppers, he wrestled both style, rough and what I call aggressive. His finisher included a backbreaker, a knee drop, and a right-handed punch. Now, Leedy also had a career in boxing. He boxed from 45 to 46 as a heavyweight under the ring, Robin Tiny Lee, sometimes referred to as simply Tiny Lee. Now, fighting out of San Fran, California, he was billed as 6'7", with a 87-inch reach. He is recorded by BoxRec as having fought 17 bouts between July 11, 45 and June 25, 46, where he went 11-5-1. In September 45, he reportedly defeated Billy Gilbert by knockout in 14 seconds. So, again, fought mostly in California with some fights in Minnesota, Nebraska, and other points. Now, Charlie Johnson, Battling Moore, Joe Houston, Frankie Estrada, Billy Gilbert, Doug Ellison, Joe Barb, Charlie Johnson, Bill McClure, Tiger Sullivan, Lindy Elliott, Abel Seastock, Doug Ellison, Lowell Strong, Charlie Johnson, Tex Brody, and John A. Haynes. And again, lost 4 by knockout, 1 by decision. Now, he acted in 3 films, including the French comedies L'Empire de Nuit and Le Bricoleur in 62 and 62 respectively, and the Indian mystery Nishat in 1969. Now, Leedy suffered from acromegaly. He had a high pain tolerance and also would engage in geek show feats, including chewing glass and allowing people to throw darts into his bare back. Now, Lee owned a 200-acre dude ranch in Bolton, Ontario, called the Rocking H, as well as a restaurant in Toronto and 1,200 acres in Alberta. Now, Lee was a heavy drinker, reportedly drinking a 40 of whiskey for breakfast. Fellow wrestler Orig Williams described him as a world-class drinker who would drink 3 bottles of whiskey daily. Fellow wrestler Al Oeming quoted Lee's aunt as bemoaning him having on one occasion drank a 26er of King Straight for breakfast, a 26er at noon, and a 26er at night. Tall tales indeed. Now, his death is a very interesting story, and if it's believable, I think it should be a 30 for 30 Canadian version. He died on May 31st, 74, in his adopted home of London. His death has variously been ascribed to complications from his disease, alcohol intoxication, but also health complications caused by a cook allegedly lacing a meal he had eaten with warfarin or rat poison. Don't know if that can be proven there. Now, in Stampede Wrestling, he won the Alberta Tag Team title twice again, NWA Canadian Heavyweight title twice, and the Stampede Wrestling Hall of Fame in 95. So if you ever have a life as important as Mr. Lee, but like I said, you can't think of Sky Low without thinking of Sky High Lee, because one was a giant in his midget class and one was a giant in his own class. And some people, he said he was 6'9", by the way. And why am I doing a podcast on this guy? Well, I know of all the Canadian wrestlers were covered here. Not too many people remember this guy. And just like Angelo Mosca, Don Leo Jonathan, Killer Carl Krupp, all the great either Canadian-born wrestlers or, adopted country, huge wrestlers. But if Lanti Grand Prix, if you were wrestled in our federation, he would have been a superstar. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing here with our podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share, or super chat. Thanks for listening, and don't forget, the squared circle is the sport of kings, but with a pre-scripted finish. Have a good one. Bye.